You know sometimes how the simplest camping hacks can be the most effective. Well, I've got a solution to a problem that has been bothering a lot of people, especially those with shelters made from expensive sil nylon or Cuban fibre. Let us talk through the problem. If you take a series of poles for supporting your shelter, you're talking perhaps normal tent poles with flat ends, or tent poles which finish with a tip like this, or it may be the slightly bigger version, carbon fibre poles, perhaps the ones that have a small aluminium nipple on the top, perhaps some of the dome poles with a small dome at the top, and of course the inevitable walking pole, which when you place the carbide tip against the material and pull the material under tension, it's not going to do the material many favours. So what's the solution? What is the solution for A, stopping your pole sinking in damp ground, and B, protecting your material from the sharp edge or pointy edge of any of these poles? Well, it's so simple, it's ridiculous. Not only that, it's got two uses. I'll come on to the second use in a minute. We're talking about pole mushrooms. Now here's two pole mushrooms of two different sizes that take two various diameters of poles. Let's look at the small one first. We're talking 24 grams for those who are interested in the weight. It's 7 centimeters high and 7 centimeters across. The larger version is 32 grams and is 7.5 centimeters high and 7 centimeters across. But as you can see, made from a hard, heavy-duty plastic. Now both of these, I'll just catch the light if I can there, both of these, as you can see, are fluted. So the smaller one will take poles from a diameter of 8 millimeters up to 18 millimeters, and the larger one 16 to 32 millimeters. And the principle is extremely simple. We just take any of these poles, let's just say the flat end of one of these, where are we? Flat end of one of these, and the mushroom just literally plops on top like that. How about the pointy end? These are the ones that give people trouble. Obviously, you put that against your material of your shelter, your expensive Cuban fibre shelter, and that will soon drive its way through. However, with one of these mushrooms slotted on top, it not only that, but it almost clicks into place. And that then spreads the tension of the pole and protects the material. Even smaller, narrow poles like this, which is a 10 millimeter carbon fibre pole with the usual type of aluminium nipple on the top. Once again, the small one will just sit on the top of there quite happily, and it's not going to go anywhere at all. And that pole will be prevented from sliding into the ground or going through the material. Conversely, you could of course be camping on very, very hard ground, and that then protects the tip of the pole as well. The older style poles, the more expensive aluminium dome poles, again, that's as smooth as that may be. Place that against the material, put it under a lot of pressure and high wind, and you're going to have a problem. So once again, a mushroom will suit. In this case, it obviously takes the larger one, that's too tight a fit. So the larger mushroom will pop on that one, and you're sorted once and for all. But ultimately, the area that interests people most of all is obviously the tip of a typical walking pole. So you have a carbide tip there, or a steel tip, which is not going to do any favours and not take prisoners when it comes to sil nylon. Pop that over the end, that virtually clicks into place, and that sheds the load nicely and takes away all the damage potential. Now, I did say there were two uses for these pole mushrooms, and I wasn't lying. Let us go back to this little camera here. Now, you'll recognise that as being your typical X peg or Y peg, however you want to call them. And these pegs can sometimes be pretty difficult to get into the ground. So what we all tend to do is we tend to put our hand against them, we push like billy-o, and after putting in 2 or 3 of these, we're left with a lovely little tattoo in the star shape of a peg, and usually it's not done our hands any favours, or perhaps our shoes. However, if you've got one of these magical pole mushrooms, you can slide your peg into that and apply as much pressure as possible to drive it into the ground. What a fabulous use! So 2 uses for the pole mushrooms. That's the small one, and the large one, that one will take the traditional larger V-pegs and slot that in there, and that will enable you to drive the peg into the ground. And even if you have one of the traditional titanium stakes, struggling to get that in and apply any pressure on that, and that will once again protect your hands, and you'll be able to locate the peg in the ground successfully. So that's it. That is my solution for a very, very common problem that I get asked about many times: how to protect the shelter from the pole moving in the wind, or excessive tension from obviously applying a lot of downward tension on the guys. And pole mushrooms is the answer. Just 24 grams on the smaller one, 32 grams on the larger one, and they only cost a couple of quid. So really a simple idea, which is the best. And I must give due credit of this idea to my hiking buddy Lee Wells, when we walked past somebody using them one day, and he said, "Now that's a very good idea." And indeed it was.